The rain fell soft on Wren's cardboard gallery. She was 12 years old, sitting cross-legged on the cracked pavement outside the Riverside Diner, surrounded by drawings she'd made with stolen pencils and scraps of paper pulled from dumpsters. Each sketch sold for whatever coins strangers could spare. Her mother needed insulin. The pharmacy wouldn't wait another week. Before I continue, if you're hearing this story at dawn in Texas or midnight in Maine, drop a comment below. We want to know where these tales reach you. Wren's fingers were smudged with graphite. She drew what she saw: the bridge across the valley, the mountains in the distance, the faces of people who passed without looking. Her work wasn't childish. It carried weight. Sorrow lived in every line. Most people walked by without stopping. A few dropped quarters into the coffee can at her feet. One woman spit near her shoe and muttered something about panhandling laws. The sun disappeared behind the buildings. Wren counted the coins. $4.60. Not enough. Not even close. She folded the drawings carefully and placed them back in the plastic bag she kept dry beneath her jacket. The diner's neon sign buzzed overhead. She could smell burgers and coffee through the cracked window, but she hadn't eaten since yesterday morning. Food could wait. Her mother couldn't. Then she heard it, a low rumble that shook the ground beneath her. The sound of engines, dozens of them, rolling through the valley like distant thunder. Wren looked up, her breath caught. Motorcycles, more than she'd ever seen in one place. They moved in formation, chrome gleaming under the streetlights, exhaust pipes roaring in harmony. The lead rider wore a leather vest with a patch across the back, a skull with wings, and beneath it bold letters, Hell's Angels Mercy. Wren scrambled to her feet, clutching her bag. The bike slowed as they approached the diner. One by one, they pulled into the parking lot. The engines cut. Silence fell like a held breath. 73 bikers dismounted. Leather creaked. Boots hit asphalt. They moved with the kind of presence that made people step aside without being told. The lead rider removed his helmet. He was older, maybe 60. With silver hair pulled back in a ponytail and a scar that ran from his temple to his jaw. His eyes were sharp, the color of winter steel. He saw Wren standing there alone, holding her plastic bag against her chest. "You sell those?" he asked, nodding toward the cardboard spread at her feet. Wren nodded. Her voice came out small. "Yes, sir." The man crouched beside her work. He studied each drawing in silence, the bridge, the mountains, a portrait of an old man she'd seen sleeping beneath the overpass. His expression didn't change, but something shifted in his posture. Recognition. Respect. "How much?" he asked. "Whatever you think is fair," Wren whispered. The man stood. He turned to the other bikers who had gathered behind him. "Flint, get the cash box." A younger rider with a red beard stepped forward, carrying a metal lockbox. The lead biker, his vest read Colt Braddock, President, opened it and pulled out a stack of bills. He counted them slowly. 20, 40, 60. He didn't stop until he reached $200. "For the art," Colt said, handing her the money. Wren stared at the bills in disbelief. Her hands shook. I can't." "You can," Colt said firmly. "And you will." Tears burned her eyes. She tried to speak, but the words tangled in her throat. Colt looked at her for a long moment. "What's your name, kid?" "Wren." "Where's your mom, Wren?" The question broke something inside her. The tears spilled over. "She's sick. She needs medicine. I've been trying to save enough, but it's never enough, and I don't know what else to do." Colt raised a hand, stopping her. He glanced at the other bikers. They stood in silence, watching, waiting. "Where is she?" Colt asked again, quieter this time. "St. Catherine's Hospital, room 304. Colt nodded once. He turned to the bikers behind him. Rusty, Wrench, Ghost, you're with me. The rest of you, wait here. Keep the kid safe. Ooh. 4 riders broke from the group and followed Colt toward the motorcycles. Within seconds, engines roared back to life. They disappeared down the street, leaving Wren standing in the parking lot surrounded by 69 bikers who said nothing but stood like a wall between her and the world. One of them, a woman with short grey hair and kind eyes, knelt beside Wren. You hungry? Wren nodded. Come on, the woman said. Let's get you something to eat. Dee, as Wren followed her into the diner, she looked back at the parking lot. The bikers remained, silent, watchful, loyal to a code she didn't yet understand, but she would. Colt Braddock had seen war. He'd buried brothers. He'd walked through fire and come out scarred but standing. Nothing in his 58 years had prepared him for room 304. Maeve Ashford lay in the hospital bed, pale as the sheets beneath her. An IV drip fed into her arm. Her breathing came shallow and uneven. She looked younger than Colt expected, maybe 35, but illness had aged her. Dark circles framed her eyes. Her hands trembled against the blanket. She turned her head when the door opened. Fear flashed across her face when she saw the 4 bikers enter. "Who are you?" she whispered. Colt removed his riding gloves. "Friends of your daughter." Maeve's expression shifted from fear to confusion. "Wren, where is she? Is she hurt?" "She's safe," Colt said. "She's eating at the diner. She's the reason we're here." Maeve tried to sit up, but her body wouldn't cooperate. She fell back against the pillows, gasping. "I don't understand." Colt stepped closer. He spoke carefully, choosing his words like he was defusing a bomb. "We found her selling drawings on the sidewalk. She told us you needed medicine, said she was trying to save money to help you." Maeve closed her eyes. A tear slid down her cheek. She shouldn't have done that. She should be in school. She should be. "She's 12 years old, and she's trying to save your life," Rusty said from the doorway. His voice was gruff, but not unkind. "That's not weakness. That's strength." Maeve opened her eyes. "I've tried everything. The insurance won't cover the insulin I need. The state programs have waiting lists. I've applied for assistance, but it takes months, and I don't have months. I've been rationing what I have left, but it's running out, and Her voice broke. "I don't know what else to do." Colt pulled a chair beside the bed and sat down. "How much do you need?" "For the insulin? About $3,000. For everything else, the rent, the utilities, food, I don't even know anymore. I lost my job 2 months ago. Wren and I have been living in a motel. I can't work because I can barely stand. And now she's out there, trying to—" Maeve covered her face with her hands. "She's just a child." Colt looked at Wrench, who stood by the window. Wrench nodded and pulled out his phone. "What are you doing?" Maeve asked. "Making calls," Colt said simply. Maeve shook her head. "I can't accept charity. I won't—" "This isn't charity," Colt interrupted. "This is family." Maeve stared at him. "We're not family. I've never met you before." Colt leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. 23 years ago, I served in the Gulf War. My unit got pinned down in a firefight. I took shrapnel to the leg. Couldn't walk. Couldn't run. My brothers carried me out. They didn't leave me behind even when it would have been easier, even when it was dangerous." He paused. "Your daughter reminds me of them. She's fighting a war she shouldn't have to fight, and we don't leave soldiers behind." Maeve's tears came harder now. She didn't try to stop them. Wrench finished his call and pocketed his phone. "Pharmacy's open until midnight. We've got time." Colt stood. "We'll handle the insulin tonight. Tomorrow, we'll handle the rest." "I can't repay you," Maeve said, her voice breaking. "We're not asking you to," Colt replied. He turned and walked toward the door. The other bikers followed. Before leaving, Colt looked back at Maeve. "Your daughter's got a gift. Those drawings she made, they're not just pictures. They're windows. She sees the world differently. Don't let that light go out." Maeve nodded, unable to speak. The four bikers left the room and headed back to the parking lot where the others waited. By the time Colt returned to the diner, Wren had finished eating. She sat at the counter, drinking hot chocolate while the bikers around her told stories and laughed like old friends. When she saw Colt enter, she jumped down from the stool and ran to him. "Did you see her? Is she okay?" Colt knelt so they were eye level. "She's okay. We're getting her medicine tonight." Wren's face crumpled. She threw her arms around Colt's neck and sobbed into his shoulder. He held her gently, letting her cry until she had nothing left. When she finally pulled back, she wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. "Why are you helping us?" Colt smiled, a rare expression that softened his scarred face. "Because someone helped me once, and I promised I'd pay it forward." He stood and addressed the group. "Brothers, sisters, we've got work to do." The bikers gathered around him. Colt laid out the situation. Maeve's illness, the insulin, the rent, the motel. He didn't sugarcoat it. He didn't need to. When he finished, Flint spoke first. "How much do we need?" 10,000, Colt said. "Maybe more." Silence. Then Rusty stepped forward. "I'm in for 500. 1,000, said Ghost. 1,500, said the woman who'd fed Wren. One by one, the bikers pledged money. Some had more to give than others, but every single one contributed. Within minutes, they'd raised $8,000. Colt added 2,000 from the club's emergency fund, $10,000 in cash in less than 10 minutes. Wren watched in stunned silence. She'd never seen anything like it. Colt turned to Wrench. "Get the pharmacy on the line. Tell them we're coming. Tell them to have everything ready." Wrench nodded and made the call. Colt looked at Wren. "You're coming with us." She nodded, unable to speak. The convoy reformed. 73 motorcycles rolled out of the parking lot in perfect formation, engines roaring like a promise being kept. Wren rode behind Colt, her arms wrapped around his waist, her heart pounding against her ribs. They rode through the night toward the pharmacy, toward the hospital, toward a future that had seemed impossible just hours before. And now I invite you to leave in the comments where you're watching from and the exact hour you heard this story. We wish to know how far these northern confessions travel and at what moments they reach you. The pharmacy lights burned bright against the darkness. The convoy pulled into the parking lot at 11:47 p.m. The pharmacist, a middle-aged man named Vernon, stood behind the counter, watching through the glass as 73 bikers dismounted and walked toward the entrance. Vernon had received the call 30 minutes earlier. At first, he'd thought it was a prank. Then Wrench had recited Maeve's prescription details, her insurance information, and the exact dosage she needed. Vernon had pulled the file. Everything checked out. The door opened. Colt entered first, followed by Wren and a dozen others. The rest waited outside. "You Vernon?" Colt asked. "Yes, sir. We're here for Maeve Ashford's insulin." Vernon nodded. He'd already prepared everything. 6 months' worth of insulin, syringes, testing supplies, and storage instructions. He rang it up. The total came to $2,800. Colt counted out the cash and handed it across the counter. Vernon counted it twice, then bagged the supplies carefully. "This should last her until spring," Vernon said, "but she'll need regular monitoring, blood sugar checks, doctor visits." "We'll handle it," Colt said. Vernon hesitated. Then he reached beneath the counter and pulled out a business card. My wife runs a free clinic on the east side. Tell Maeve to call this number. They'll help her with the rest." Colt took the card and pocketed it. "Appreciate it." As they turned to leave, Vernon called out, "Hey." Colt looked back. "You guys are good people," Vernon said quietly. Colt didn't respond. He just nodded once and walked out. The convoy rode to St. Catherine's Hospital. Security tried to stop them at the entrance, but Colt spoke with the night supervisor, a former Marine who recognized the insignia on his vest. Within minutes, they were cleared to go up. Room 304 was dark when they arrived. Maeve had fallen asleep, her breathing slow and shallow. Colt placed the bag of insulin on the bedside table. He wrote a note on the back of Vernon's business card. "This should last 6 months. Call the clinic. They'll help with the rest. You're not alone anymore." He left the card beside the bag and walked out without waking her. Wren stood in the hallway, staring through the window at her mother's sleeping form. Tears streamed down her face, but she made no sound. Colt placed a hand on her shoulder. "She's going to be okay." Wren turned and hugged him again. This time, she didn't cry. She just held on, feeling safe for the first time in months. "What happens now?" she asked. Colt smiled. "Now we take care of the rest." The Riverside Motel was the kind of place people stayed when they had nowhere else to go. Peeling paint, broken railings, a flickering vacancy sign that buzzed like a dying insect. Room 12 was where Maeve and Wren had been living for 2 months. Colt stood outside the door at 1:30 a.m., flanked by Rusty and Ghost. The manager, a wiry man with yellowed teeth, had given them the key after Colt explained the situation and handed him $300 for the overdue rent. The door opened. The room was small and sparse. 2 twin beds with thin blankets, a microwave on the dresser, a duffel bag in the corner containing everything Wren and her mother owned. Drawings covered the walls, dozens of them taped up like wallpaper, mountains, rivers, faces, each one detailed and haunting. Rusty whistled low. "Kids got talent." Colt walked to the drawings and studied them closely. One caught his attention. A portrait of a woman holding a child, their faces pressed together, eyes closed. The emotion in it was raw, unfiltered, real. "We need to get them out of here," Colt said. "Where?" Ghost asked. Colt thought for a moment. "The clubhouse has a spare room. It's not much, but it's better than this." Rusty nodded. "I'll pack their stuff." While Rusty gathered Wren and Maeve's belongings, Colt made calls. He reached out to connections he'd built over decades, veterans groups, community organizations, people who owed him favors. By the time the sun rose, he had secured temporary housing, food assistance, and a job lead for Maeve once she recovered. But that wasn't enough. Colt wanted more. He wanted to make sure Wren's gift didn't go to waste. He called Flint. "You still in touch with that gallery owner in Portland?" "Yeah," Flint said. "Why?" "I need her to look at some art." Her name was Diana Corrin, and she ran the most prestigious gallery in Portland. She didn't usually take calls at 6 a.m., but when Flint explained the situation, she made an exception. 3 days later, Colt and Wren stood in the gallery, surrounded by paintings and sculptures that cost more than most people made in a year. Diana studied Wren's drawings in silence, her expression unreadable. Finally, she looked up. "How old are you?" 12, Wren said quietly. Diana turned to Colt. "Where did you find her?" "Sitting on a sidewalk, selling these for spare change." Diana shook her head slowly. "This is extraordinary, the composition, the emotional depth. She's self-taught, far as I know." Diana looked at Wren. "I want to feature your work in an exhibition, a full show. Your art deserves to be seen." Wren's eyes went wide. "You mean People would pay to see my drawings. Not just see them, Diana said, buy them. With the right promotion, you could sell every piece in this collection, and we'd split the proceeds. 70% goes to you, 30% to the gallery. Standard terms. Colt did the math in his head. If Wren sold even half the drawings at gallery prices, she and her mother would have enough to start over. Really start over. Wren looked at Colt, disbelief written across her face. Is this real? It's real, Colt said. Diana extended her hand. Do we have a deal? Wren shook it, her hand small in Diana's. Yes, Mom. If this story has moved you, leave a like below. Let us know it reached you. The exhibition opened on a Saturday evening in late October. The gallery was packed. Collectors in tailored suits, critics with notepads, art students clutching coffee cups, and curious strangers who'd heard about the 12-year-old artist whose work had caught the attention of Portland's elite. Wren stood beside her mother near the entrance, dressed in a simple black dress the bikers had bought for her. Her hands trembled slightly. She'd never been in a place like this. All polished floors and track lighting and champagne glasses that sparkled like diamonds. Maeve was healthier now. The transformation over the past 3 months had been remarkable. Her color had returned, her hands were steady, and the dark circles beneath her eyes had faded. The insulin had worked, the clinic had helped, and the Hell's Angels had stayed close, checking in daily, making sure they had everything they needed. Diana Corrin moved through the crowd with practiced grace, greeting guests and directing them toward Wren's work. The drawings hung on white walls under carefully positioned spotlights. Each one had been professionally framed and matted. They looked different here, not like sidewalk sketches, but like real art. Colt stood in the back, with Rusty, Ghost, Flint, and a dozen other club members. They'd cleaned up for the occasion. Leather vests replaced with button-down shirts, though their presence still commanded attention. Several guests had given them wide berth upon entering, but the bikers didn't care. They were here for Wren. At 7 o'clock, Diana tapped a champagne glass with a pen. The room fell silent. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us tonight. What you're about to see is extraordinary, not just because of the technical skill on display, but because of the story behind it. Diana gestured toward Wren. 3 months ago, this young woman was sitting on a sidewalk selling these drawings for spare change. She was trying to save her mother's life. She was 12 years old, and she was fighting a battle no child should ever have to fight. The crowd listened intently. Several people had already heard the story through word of mouth, but hearing Diana tell it in this context made it more real. But this story isn't just about struggle, Diana continued. It's about the people who show up when it matters most. It's about a community that refused to let a talented young artist and her mother fall through the cracks. And it's about the power of art to change lives, not metaphorically, but literally. She turned to Wren. The artist would like to say a few words. Wren's heart hammered against her ribs. She hadn't prepared a speech. She'd thought she could just smile and let the art speak for itself. But as she looked at the crowd, at the people who'd paid $50 each just to walk through these doors, she realized she had to say something. She stepped forward. Her voice came out small at first. I drew these because I didn't know what else to do. The room leaned in, listening. My mom was sick and I couldn't fix it. I couldn't make the hospital bills go away. I couldn't make the pharmacy give us the medicine she needed, but I could draw. And I thought maybe if I drew enough, I could help her. Her voice steadied. I didn't expect anyone to care. People walked past me every day. Most of them didn't even look down. But then, she turned and found Colt in the crowd. He nodded encouragement. Then these people showed up. She pointed to the bikers standing in the back. 73 motorcycles. I'd never seen anything like it. They didn't know me. They didn't owe me anything, but they helped us anyway. They bought my art. They paid for my mom's medicine. They found us a place to stay. They made sure we had food and clothes and hope. Tears threatened, but she pushed through. I'm here tonight because they believed in me when nobody else did. They saw something in my drawings that I didn't even see myself. And they taught me what it means to be family. Not the kind you're born into, but the kind you choose. The room erupted in applause. Several women dabbed their eyes with cocktail napkins. One elderly man in a grey suit nodded slowly, clearly moved. Diana let the applause continue for a moment before raising her hand. The exhibition is now open. All proceeds go directly to the artist and her mother. The crowd dispersed, moving toward the walls to examine the work more closely. Wren watched as strangers pointed at her drawings, leaned in to read the descriptions, and spoke in hushed tones. A woman in a green dress approached Maeve. "Your daughter is incredibly talented." "Thank you," Maeve said, her voice thick with emotion. "She's the strongest person I know." "The drawing of the bridge," the woman continued, "the one with the mountains in the background. Is it still available?" Maeve glanced at Diana, who nodded. "It is. I'd like to purchase it," the woman said. "How much?" Diana consulted her tablet. "That piece is listed at $1,200. The woman didn't hesitate. Sold. Throughout the evening, similar conversations happened again and again. A retired teacher bought the portrait of the old man beneath the overpass. A young couple purchased 3 smaller sketches of wildflowers. A collector from Seattle put a hold on 5 pieces, pending authentication and provenance documentation. By 9 o'clock, red "Sold" stickers dotted nearly every frame. By 10, only 2 pieces remained available. By the time the gallery closed at 11, every single drawing had sold. Diana approached Wren and Maeve with a printout. "The total comes to $47,300. After the gallery's 30% commission, you'll receive $33,110. Maeve stared at the number. She read it 3 times. Then she covered her mouth with her hand and started crying. Wren hugged her mother, tears streaming down her own face. "We're going to be okay," she whispered. "We're really going to be okay." Diana smiled. "I'll have the check ready by Monday. And Wren, I'd like to talk about future exhibitions. Your work deserves a wider audience." After the guests left, the bikers gathered around Wren and Maeve in the empty gallery. Colt extended his hand to Wren. "Proud of you, kid." Wren shook his hand, then pulled him into a hug. "Thank you," she said, "for everything." Rusty wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. Ghost cleared his throat. Flint looked away, but his shoulders shook slightly. "Come on," Colt said. "Let's get you two home." The convoy escorted Wren and Maeve back to their apartment. As the motorcycles pulled away into the night, Wren stood on the sidewalk and watched them go. The sound of engines faded slowly, like a promise that would never truly leave. 6 months passed. Spring arrived with wildflowers and longer days. Maeve found steady work as a medical transcriptionist for a hospital network, typing doctor's notes from home and earning enough to cover rent, utilities and groceries, with money left over for savings. Wren enrolled at Jefferson Middle School and joined the advanced art program, where her teacher, a former gallery curator, recognized her talent immediately and connected her with additional resources, including weekend workshops at the Community Arts Center. The Hells Angels remained woven into their lives like threads in a tapestry. Colt checked in every Sunday, either by phone or in person. Rusty helped Maeve when her car broke down, replacing the alternator and refusing payment. Ghost taught Wren how to ride a motorcycle in an empty parking lot on Saturday mornings, starting with a small dirt bike and teaching her throttle control, balance, and respect for the machine. Maeve wasn't thrilled about the lessons, but she didn't say no. She understood by now that the club operated on principles of trust and earned respect, and denying Wren the chance to learn would have been an insult. They moved into a small apartment near the river. Nothing fancy, but it had 2 bedrooms, working appliances, and windows that let in morning light. Wren decorated her room with new drawings she'd made since the exhibition. Her style had evolved. The work was still emotional, still raw, but now it carried hope instead of desperation. One Saturday afternoon in late April, Colt called. "Got something to show you at the clubhouse. Can you come by around 3? Wren arrived on her dirt bike, wearing the helmet Ghost had given her for her 13th birthday. She parked beside the row of Harleys and walked inside. The clubhouse was a converted warehouse on the industrial side of town. The exterior was plain, corrugated metal and faded paint, but inside it was warm. Leather couches, a long bar made from reclaimed wood, pool tables, a jukebox in the corner playing Johnny Cash, and on the walls, dozens of Wren's drawings. She stopped in the doorway, stunned. The pieces she'd given to the bikers as gifts over the past 6 months had been professionally framed and hung throughout the building. The portrait of the woman and child held a place of honor above the bar, illuminated by a brass picture light. Colt appeared beside her. "Welcome home." Wren walked slowly through the space, touching the frames gently, remembering when she'd drawn each one. A sketch of Rusty working on an engine, Ghost leaning against his bike at sunset, a group portrait of the club gathered around a bonfire. "This is our family," Colt said, gesturing to the artwork, "and you're part of it now." Tears welled in Wren's eyes. She'd never had a family beyond her mother. Now she had 73 brothers and sisters who would ride into hell for her if she asked. Rusty came over with a leather vest in his hands. It was smaller than the others, cut to fit a teenager, with the club's insignia embroidered on the back. Beneath the skull and wings it read, "Honorary Member." "We took a vote," Rusty said. "It was unanimous." Wren took the vest with shaking hands. She slipped it on. It fit perfectly. The room erupted in applause and cheers. Bikers clapped her on the back. Someone turned up the jukebox. Ghost handed her a Coke. "Speech," Flint called out. Wren laughed through her tears. "I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything," Colt said. "You just have to show up when we need you, same as we did for you." Wren nodded. "I will, I promise." That evening, they had a barbecue in the parking lot. Wren helped Rusty grill burgers, while Ghost told exaggerated stories about motorcycle accidents he'd survived. Maeve arrived after work and joined them, accepting a beer from Flint and laughing at his jokes. As the sun set and the stars appeared, Wren sat on the hood of a truck beside Colt, watching the club members talk and laugh around the bonfire. "Do you ever think about what would have happened if you hadn't stopped that night?" Wren asked. Colt was quiet for a moment. "Yeah," he said. "I think about it." "What do you think would have happened?" "I don't know," Colt admitted. "But I'm glad I don't have to find out." Wren looked at him. "Why did you stop? You could have just kept riding." Colt turned to her. 23 years ago I was wounded in combat. My leg was shredded. I couldn't walk. My unit was under fire, and staying to help me meant risking their lives. But they stayed. They carried me out. They refused to leave me behind, even when it would have been easier." He paused. "One of them, his name was Jackson Reed. He died covering our escape. Took a round to the chest. Last thing he said was, Promise me you'll do the same for someone else someday. Ren swallowed hard. So you kept the promise? I did, Colt said, and I'll keep it every day for the rest of my life. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the fire burn. 2 years later, Ren stood on the same sidewalk where Colt had first found her. She was 14 now, taller, more confident, her hair longer, her voice stronger. Her art had been featured in galleries across Oregon and Washington. Colleges were already sending letters offering scholarships. The Rhode Island School of Design, the San Francisco Art Institute, Pratt. She'd have her pick when the time came. But today, she wasn't here to sell. She was here to give back. She'd set up 2 folding tables on the sidewalk outside the Riverside Diner. One held free art supplies, pencils, sketchbooks, watercolors, brushes, erasers, sharpeners. The other displayed finished pieces she'd made specifically for this event, each one tagged with, "Free, take what speaks to you." A handmade sign leaned against the table. Free art supplies for anyone who needs them. No questions asked. Within the first hour, kids started showing up. Some were homeless, carrying everything they owned in backpacks. Others were just poor, clean clothes but worn and too small. A few came with parents who looked tired and beaten down by life. Ren welcomed them all. She handed out supplies without judgment. She showed them how to hold a pencil for shading, how to mix watercolors for gradients, how to see light and shadow. A boy around 10 years old approached cautiously. His clothes were dirty, his shoes had holes. "Is this really free?" he asked. "Really free," Ren confirmed. She handed him a sketchbook and a set of colored pencils. "Draw what you see, draw what you feel. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be yours." The boy took the supplies like they were made of gold. "Thank you," he whispered. By noon, she'd given away 40 sketchbooks and hundreds of pencils. By 2 o'clock, kids were sitting on the sidewalk, drawing together, sharing techniques, and showing off their work. A girl around Ren's age sat cross-legged near the table, sketching the mountains in the distance. Her lines were confident, her perspective accurate. "You're good," Ren said, kneeling beside her. The girl looked up, startled. "Thanks. I've been practicing. I want to go to art school someday, but—" She trailed off. "But what? My family can't afford it, and I'm not good enough for scholarships." Ren smiled. "I thought the same thing 2 years ago, but someone believed in me when I didn't believe in myself, and that changed everything." The girl looked at her drawings spread across the sidewalk. "What if nobody believes in me? Then you believe in yourself until someone else catches up," Ren said. She handed the girl a business card with Diana Corrin's gallery information. "Send her photos of your work. Tell her I sent you. She'll look at it." The girl stared at the card like it was a winning lottery ticket. "You'd do that for me?" "Someone did it for me," Ren said simply. "Now I'm passing it forward." Around 3 o'clock, the familiar rumble of motorcycles echoed down the street. Ren looked up. 73 bikes rolled toward her in perfect formation. Colt pulled up first, followed by Rusty, Ghost, Flint, and the others. They dismounted and walked toward the tables. Several of them carried boxes. "Brought reinforcements," Colt said, setting down a box filled with more art supplies, professional-grade stuff, expensive brands. Rusty placed another box on the table. "Paint sets, canvases, easels, whatever you need." Ghost handed Ren a cooler. "Sandwiches and water. Figured the kids might be hungry." Ren's throat tightened. "You didn't have to do this." "Yeah," Colt said. "We did." The bikers spread out, helping distribute supplies, talking with kids, showing genuine interest in their drawings. Ghost taught a group of boys how to draw motorcycles using basic shapes. Rusty demonstrated shading techniques. Flint told stories about famous artists who'd started with nothing. A local news crew showed up around 4 o'clock, alerted by someone who'd posted photos on social media. The reporter, a young woman with a microphone and camera operator, approached Wren. "Mind if we ask a few questions?" Wren glanced at Colt, who nodded. "Sure," Wren said. The reporter gestured to the tables and the crowd of kids. "What inspired you to do this?" Wren thought carefully before answering. 2 years ago, I was sitting right here, selling drawings, because my mom was sick and we needed money for her medicine. I felt invisible, like nobody cared. Then these people showed up." She gestured to the bikers. "They didn't just buy my art. They saw me. They helped us when we had nothing. They taught me that art isn't just about making beautiful things. It's about connection. It's about showing up for each other. Today, I'm showing up for these kids the way someone showed up for me." The reporter turned to Colt. "And you're part of the Hells Angels Motorcycle Club?" "That's right," Colt said. "Why is the club involved in this?" Colt looked at the kids sitting on the sidewalk, drawing and laughing. "Because we take care of our own, and anyone who needs help, they're our own." The segment aired that evening on the local news. By the next morning, donations started pouring in: money, supplies, offers of free art classes. Within a week, Wren had enough resources to do this event monthly. As the sun set on that first day, Wren stood on the sidewalk and watched the kids leave, clutching their new supplies and their finished drawings. The boy who'd approached her first stopped and turned back. "I drew something for you," he said shyly. He handed her a sketch, a rough but earnest drawing of a girl standing beside a motorcycle. Wren's eyes filled with tears. "This is beautiful. Thank you." The boy smiled and ran off to catch up with his friends. Colt walked over, his hands in his pockets. "You did good today, kid." "We did good," Wren corrected. Colt smiled. "Fair enough." They stood together in comfortable silence as the streetlights flickered on. The circle was complete. The promise had been kept, and a new generation was learning what it meant to show up for each other, to fight for the people who couldn't fight for themselves, to honor the code that had saved her life. 73 motorcycles had changed everything. But it was one 12-year-old girl with a gift and a mother who loved her that had reminded them why they rode in the first place. Not for glory, not for recognition, but for family, for loyalty, for the promise that when someone falls, you pick them up, and you never, ever leave them behind. Thank you for riding with us through this story. If it moved you, consider subscribing to hear more tales of honor, loyalty, and the unbreakable bonds that hold us together. Until the next road calls, ride safe.